in Christ. They're great friends, and I'm happy to share a little bit about what they're doing. I don't know as much about their current work as I would like to, just because the nature of my work is such that usually when I travel to Guatemala, they're now in a different place than where I am, and so I don't get to see them very often. However, there are a number of multi-congregational programs going on in Guatemala that they attend, and so I get to see them maybe once a year or something like that. Hopefully, in October, I will get to see them and spend a few days with them, and we'll learn a little bit more about the work that they're doing. Everything that I hear about the work that they're doing is that they're doing a great job. I didn't mean to do that if I did it. They're doing a great job with the team that they're involved in San Cristobal in Guatemala. Just a little bit about me and what I do. My official title is the Regional Director of Extensions for Latin America for Bear Valley. It's one of those things, you try to shorten it as much as possible. If I ever have to fill out an application where I have to put my employer's name down there, I just tell them right off, well, your line's not big enough. It's just too long there. But basically what that means is I'm responsible for our schools of preaching in Guatemala, rather in Latin America. And until recently, we had 3 of those schools, one in Guatemala, one in Honduras, and a new one in Paraguay. But just this year, we completed a graduation in Honduras, and after that graduation, we've now consolidated our Honduras and Guatemala schools, and we only have one in Central America now. All of those from Honduras, Guatemala, and all over Central America will be trained at the Guatemala facility or Guatemala campus. So I'm not really going to give you any details about Honduras, other than to say we just in May graduated 6 more students from there, and we're very happy about that. Let me also call your attention, if you have access to the internet and do that sort of thing, I would encourage you to visit our website, wetrainpreachers.com, and find out a lot more about what's going on with Bear Valley around the world in the Extension Center Studies program that we have, and also what's going on here in Denver. You can just type it in, wetrainpreachers.com. You don't have to put the capitals in there. We've got some of those words capitalized because if you don't capitalize it, it looks like Wet Rain Preachers. I can tell you, if you type in Wet Rain Preachers, you can still get to the website. But check that out, and you'll see. Hopefully my presenter may not reach that far. There we go. I'm going to have to do this class this way probably. Maybe if I come down here to this side, you can look at the screen and not me anyway. But this is what we do. This is a picture of the world, of course, and there is Denver. But just to kind of give you an idea of where we are and where we're doing work in the world, Gorlovka, Ukraine was our first school of preaching. Arusha, Tanzania is another one of our schools. We have another school in Tanzania, in Chamala, down in the southwestern part of the country. Busia, Uganda is another of our schools. Siem Reap, Cambodia is one that the Bear Valley congregation actually sponsors and takes care of that one. We are, I will tell you, partnered with a number of congregations around this country and in other countries in training preachers. In fact, our fundraiser was telling us the other day that when you count up the supporters, just the supporters of the work that Bear Valley is doing, they number, counting, if a congregation that supports this work is one contributor. An individual is one contributor. If you count them all up, there's almost 800 congregations / individuals that are helping to support this work around the world. Then add in all of the congregations that are directly involved in these foreign countries. For example, one of the ones, this little dots that's going to come up there in a moment, is in Kenya. And the congregation in Kenya, where the school is there, brand new school that we have there, numbers about 800 members with elders, doing a fantastic job there. So we are partnered with, I don't know how many thousands of people around the world in training preachers to do this, and it's very exciting to do that. But Siem Reap, Cambodia is one that Bear Valley congregation itself is sponsoring and watching over. Asuncion, Paraguay is the school that I work with directly. I've been there twice this year already. They are brand new. They just started classes this year. Vishakhapatnam, India, in southeast India is another one of our schools. Chandigarh, India is one of, three countries, I think, that has two schools in it that we work with. Takoradi, Ghana. Ghana is the other country that has two schools in it. Tamale, not Tamale. I always want to say Tamale. It's Tamale, Ghana. And then there's Ibadan, Nigeria is another new school in our program. Wotutu, Cameroon is a very, very important school in our program. The work that these men are doing is just incredible. These guys get up at 5 a.m. and start preaching over loudspeakers and that. So how would you like that to have in your neighborhood? I'm not sure that would go over real well in our neighborhoods over here, but it works over there, and they are converting lots and lots of people, establishing new congregations, winning back a lot of brethren who have fallen away in large part because of a great missionary influx of a few decades ago. When that ended, missionaries returned home. There weren't really leaders in that area that could continue the work, and so eventually brethren fell away. Well, we've got men now who are going back into those areas and reestablishing congregations, and it's a very exciting work. Kathmandu, Nepal is one of our schools that I've been able to visit. Guatemala City, Guatemala, of course, is one that you are familiar with. And this one in Togo, I speak Spanish. I don't know how to say that. But there is that in Togo that we're also involved with. Kisumu, Kenya is another new school that we're very, very excited about. You can see that Central Africa is where a lot of work is going on. And I mentioned that we've consolidated the schools in Honduras and Guatemala, in part because they were so close together, and neither one of those schools had ever operated at full capacity in numbers of students. And so the decision was made in large part because of resources. And we wanted to be good stewards with that. We don't typically like to have two schools that are really close together. But while in Latin America we may have student bodies that number 5, 6 at a time, these schools in Africa number 20 to 30 at a time. And so for this reason, these schools that you see represented, and I think that's all of them, these schools that you see represented, 16 now extension schools, counting what we're doing here in Denver, we're training between 300 and 350 men at any given time around the world to be gospel preachers. It's an incredibly exciting work that is taking place. Well, let's get right into the reports of the two schools, and I'm going to start with Guatemala City because that one is the one that involves this congregation the most. And this is my ode to Indiana Jones. Give you an idea of just kind of where that is on the map. And I know that a lot of this is going to be familiar to you, but I was there in March of this year to attend the graduation of the last class, the second class that has been through the school, and also the lectureship, 4th annual lectureship there. And this is one of the venues where I get to see the Ramos family, and I'll have a few pictures of them as we go. You probably know this story because of your involvement in this work, but I've got this. I need to change the title. It's not a new facility anymore. They've been meeting there for several years. But as you may be aware, just this year, in January of this year, the brethren at ITL were able to raise the funds to buy this facility and the house next door where the missionaries, Hy Jones and Byron Benitez, live for the money that they needed. I think they needed to raise an additional $70,000 to buy both of these. They had some money in the bank to buy some property at some point, and they needed an additional $70,000, and in about 1 month's time, they were able to raise, I think it was $85,000 additional dollars, and so they had money left over to do some needed repairs. You know, when you buy property, all of a sudden you discover there's some things that need to be fixed. And so they were able to do that, and we're very thankful to God for the opportunity. It is a nice facility. It's a house, but there are apartments down the hill behind where married students can live. There are rooms up above where one married couple can live, as well as some single students, and it's a great facility there. The classroom is actually right behind these garage doors. And it's a very, very nice setup that they have in there. There is there are teachers' quarters in this house that I'll be staying in this next week, just right around the wall from the classroom. It's a 15-second walk to class from my room, so it's pretty handy there. And so it's a great setup, and we're very thankful for it. And this, you can see a little bit about the classroom. This is me teaching in that room. Now, let me point out that right over here, under this cover, is a big flat screen monitor, and there are two of them on that wall. And above, from the ceiling, there is well, actually, it's two different things. They have a projector like this, and it shines onto another wall. I'll be using that to teach my class. But there's a camera mounted in there that points toward those, that's right over those monitors. And what that's all about is they are hooked up to our video conferencing system. And so this past May, was it May that I taught? We had need of a teacher to teach a class in Guatemala. I could not go, but somebody's got to teach the class, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of this, but somebody's got to teach that class. Well, we're not using those rooms at that particular time. It's the week after graduation here in Denver, and so I taught that class to the new class, the third class in that school, from Denver. And I've got two monitors in the classroom over here at Bear Valley, and they've got their two monitors. They can see me, I can see them, and I can put up my slides from my computer on the other monitor. So the one monitor they see me, the other monitor they see my slides. And here in Denver, on one monitor I see them, and on the other monitor I see my slides, so I see what they're seeing, and I know if there's something wrong. And we are air miles, about 2,000 miles away. And Brother Michael, one of the new students there, Brother Michael's got a question about something that I've put up or something that I've said. He raises his hand. And when he raises his hand in real time, I can say, Brother Michael, what's your question? That's pretty cool. And we have that system in Guatemala. We're hoping to get it in Paraguay. We have it in Ukraine. And it's just a tremendous thing or resource to have. And we also have a brother in Paducah, Kentucky, who says, that's going to be my ministry. I'll foot the bill for that. That's about $50,000 a location. But he does that and pays for the hardware. And all we've got to provide is a place that has access to high-speed internet signal. It's a great resource. Now, here's another thing about that. Once we get that set up in Paraguay, I may coordinate with the faculty at both of those schools and say, how about next week we have a seminar on such and such, and we'll do it all together. And I could stay in Denver and I could teach a seminar in Spanish to a student body in Guatemala, a student body in Paraguay at the same time, and they can all see me, they can see each other and hear each other. It's just a tremendous opportunity that we have. This is me with the class that just graduated in March. This is the beta class. And let me point out that right over here, this young lady, Sister Noelis, she is married to Brother Walter. we do have in our schools in Latin America and other schools around the world, we do have women who attend our classes. And I only want to point that out because the question has come up. So let me just answer the question. The women who go through our program, just like the women who go through the program here, go through the classes that the men do. They do all the work that the men do, except the preaching. They do not preach before mixed assemblies. They are learning how to present lessons, however, to ladies groups and to children and things along those lines. And we're very proud of the work that these young ladies have done. This year I was there for the 4th annual lectureship. They didn't put 4th up on the sign this time. It just says to the annual lectureship. And you can see with the size of that sign why you wouldn't want to put the number every time and have to make a whole new sign. But it was a very interesting situation this year. We normally have between 400 and 500 people attend this seminar from all over Guatemala. And they have a very nice facility that they've been able to rent in years past, and that houses all of that. It's just a great setup. This year, however, about a month out, sometime in February, Byron and I went by to see the fellow that owns that facility. Now, they'd already put down the deposit, made the reservation, but thought, you know, maybe we ought to you just want to confirm. You just hate for bad things to happen. And he tells them, oh, well, I'm not in that business anymore. He did give them their deposit money back, but you're a month away from something like that. What do you do? And they really were out of options. Long story short, they had to host this lectureship at the Linda Vista Congregation's building. If you really cram everybody in there tightly, you can get maybe 200, 225 people in that auditorium. We had about 450 people show up. And it's hot in March, let me just tell you. It's hot. The building is not air conditioned. They had fans going. They had ceiling fans set up. Ceiling fans outside the United States do not have very much curve in the blades. They're pretty much flat. So they make a comforting noise to make you think you're getting cooler when you're not. But there's an additional room off to one side that they can partition for classes. They opened that up, put another 50 or so people in there for the classes. They set up a tent. The municipality was kind enough to close off that street for the weekend, and so they put up a tent that took up the whole street, and we got through it, and then went to a different place for the graduation later. This is Brother Bob Turner on the right who is speaking. I think he's spoken here before and made a presentation. He was on the schedule this year. And the fellow on the left is Brother Conrad Pender, a great friend of mine, one of the best translators I've ever known. He's a United Nations quality translator. And if you're speaking English, he will translate Spanish. If you, in the middle of your sentence, you switch to Spanish, he will, in the middle of his sentence, switch to English without missing a beat. He's just that good. He is Panamanian by birth. Lives in Costa Rica now, and he does a great job for us in translating for when we need a translator. And here we have the faculty at ITL. You can see Brother High here, president of ITL. Brother Byron is one of the vice presidents here. Brother Conrad is translating for High. Over here is Aníbal Ramirez, who is the local preacher at the Linda Vista congregation, one of the other vice president. And over here is Brother Darvin Alvarez, who preaches up in Coban, which is near San Cristobal. And he is the other faculty member, and their wives are there present as well. And this was the graduating class being introduced for the final time as students. The next day they were going to be graduates. Brother Pedro Batres from Nicaragua was the keynote speaker that day. We move on to graduation, which was Sunday afternoon. And these graduates here in the darker robes, that's actually purple, but it kind of washes out in the slide. Those are the full-time students that we were just seeing pictures of. And these ladies over here in the gray caps and gowns were from the Saturday program. They attend for 3 years on Saturday. And since we don't work with the Saturday program, I can never remember if it's every Saturday or every other Saturday or just how it is. But it's a shorter program, but meeting just one day, it takes longer. But they've done a great job as well. Francisco Ramos is somebody that this congregation is involved with and concerned about. This is Francisco, teaching Bible class at Linda Vista. I recognize the stand and the venue. Francisco was a leader in the congregation at Linda Vista before going to ITL, and while he was in ITL, he continued to be. Now they're doing that work in San Cristobal, and he's a leader there. He's a great teacher. He's a great gospel preacher. He's a great man, a great Christian man. He's also one of the best song leaders I've ever heard in Latin America, certainly. Does a fantastic job in all that he does. I included this picture. This is 3 years ago. Noma and I were on our way down to the first lectureship. We flew from Oklahoma City to Houston just in time to find out that our flight was canceled because this was on Friday morning. Thursday night, a volcano right outside of Guatemala City blew its top. And so we didn't get to go. I went a week later and taught my class. But what's happening here, this is on the street that the Linda Vista congregation is located on. And these guys are sweeping volcanic sand, not ash, sand, off of the building tops. And you can see it down here it looks like snow in Denver in the wintertime that's just been kind of swept over to the side. It is sand. It's silica. It's not the ash. It's volcanic rock that's pulverized in the eruption, and it absolutely covered everything. Well, sand is a lot heavier than ash, unless the ash is wet, but then the sand gets wet. See, what happened is the day after the volcano blew, a tropical storm hit that area. And so it was awful. The airport took a week to open, and that's why I went down a week later. But that residue of that stayed around for quite some time, and it did collapse a few roofs here. And this, I forgot to put in a picture of the new school bus. This is the old school bus for ITL, and they would get 8 or 10 people in there, and more in the front seat. And that topper leaked, which is not a lot of fun in the rainy season. But right here, these two fellows here, this is one of the Ramos' sons. He's not been through the school, and I don't know him as well, but if I remember correctly, his name is Ricardo. The young man on the right is named Jonathan. Jonathan is an interesting story. Jonathan grew up on the streets in Guatemala City. And he lived in the parking lot between Pollo Campero Fried Chicken and McDonald's. And he became well known to the brethren at ITL and to Byron and High, and they all kind of had this good relationship. And then one day, everyone witnessed all of these little businesses like this have armed guards in a place like that, and witnessed the guard wanting to run Jonathan away and not bother the customers, and he hit Jonathan. Jonathan was only 11 or 12, maybe something like that, and he hit him. Well, long story short, Byron and High ended up essentially, not legally, but essentially adopting Jonathan. See, Jonathan didn't grow up on the street because he's an orphan. He grew up on the street because his mom and dad had more kids than they could take care of, and so he's just out on the street. Well, they approached I think it was his mother, approached his mother. She was okay with them taking him in. And while the Ramos family was still in, that was the first class at ITL, while they were still in school, Jonathan lived there, and he lived with them. Now, High and Byron are single men. And they provide for him. They take care of him in every way that they can, but they all recognize he needs a mom and a dad. And so the Ramoses, Francisco and Herminia, took him in to live with them as a son. And he is now, I don't know, he's getting close to 18 years old. one of the finest Christian young men you will ever meet. Now he is still with the Ramoses in San Cristobal. He comes to the capital whenever he can, and he sees his quote-unquote fathers. And it's a great relationship. It's a great story. But he's a good guy. He's a good guy. And at all of all of the events, the graduation, lectureship, things like that, Jonathan is now the official photographer. This is Francisco speaking in chapel. That's not a good picture of him. This is Abner Ramos, their son, who went through the same time as his dad through the school, speaking in chapel. This is me with their family, with their class, the first class. And here's Abner, here is Francisco, and this is Herminia, the mom. And she's a sweetie, I got to tell you. And this is an event that they did at the end of a week that I was there teaching. You can see Abner there in the middle. This is, of course, Francisco, and this is Abner in front of the sign that they have in the facility there. How long? What time does class end? Quarter till. Okay. For future reference, my watch just stopped. That sign says, "Enter to prepare yourself, leave to serve." And that is a motto that they have there at ITL. Let me also point out on their logo here, Matthew 4:19 is the scripture that they use at ITL. Much like at the Denver campus here at Bear Valley, we use 2 Timothy 2 and verse 2. The things that you have heard from me in the presence of many, these things repeat to, or these things teach faithful men who will be able to teach others also. That's our tagline, so to speak. Matthew 4:19, Jesus says, "Follow me and I will make you" what? Fishers of men. Do you see the fish hook right here? The fish hook is there. I forgot to pack my fish hook. The faculty all wear fish hooks on their collars, except for one this coming week, who forgot to pack his. Right here in the eye of the hook is Guatemala, and their motto is now I've forgotten what their motto is, but it has to do with taking the central message to Central America. That's what their motto is, and that's what they're doing. And the men that are working in the school in Paraguay were impressed by a lot of things that they saw at ITL when they visited there before starting classes, and so now they have this same sign in their facility. And so it's a good work that's being done in Guatemala. This is Francisco leading singing. Abner, I was proud of Abner anyway. I got to tell you, this past year in March, when we go down for graduation and the lectureship and all of that, we stay in a pretty nice hotel downtown. They really do it up right, the missionaries there. And this is the President's Banquet that they always do on Thursday nights. Well, this past March, while we were downstairs, Bob Turner and I were rooming together, and we were downstairs in the restaurant having breakfast, and I sensed a presence here on my left, and it's Abner standing there, and in a very low voice, just loud enough that only I could hear. He says, he kind of backed up a step, and he said, "Brother, do these pants match this jacket?" I thought, you know, that makes me feel like a dad. I was already proud of that boy. And I said, "Fine, your mother may tell you something completely different, but it looks fine to me." And he said, "No, she always looks handsome, so I'm good." For the last 2 years, Abner has been a speaker on the lectureship. And I'm telling you, he's a fine young man, and you should be proud of the work that he's doing as well. I don't know if you can see this, but this was last year at the lectureship. I spoke on the lectureship last year, but right over here to the right is Abner's picture. And just a fine young man. Here's Armenia. Hermione would be the English version of that, by the way. Sitting in the crowd as we were getting ready for the lectureship. And of course, here's Francisco, again, leading singing. And I just included some pictures of the lectureship. like I said, between 400 and 500 Christians come together, and especially on the mission field. I don't know why it affects me this way, but on the mission field, when you get a group of brethren together that large, it just means something more. There's a different kind of feeling, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That doesn't mean anything spiritually speaking, but it's a great thing to experience. A lot of folks studying their Bibles, a lot of kids, and there are some things that are cross-cultural, aren't there? Okay. This is from ITL's webpage that you could go and see. You can kind of see this picture was taken, and that's Abner, by the way, right up there. This is Wilder. Wilder Ordóñez was also in that class. He's a great cut-up, good friend of mine. But they are working in the computer lab at ITL's. They have computer access, or access to computers and internet that helps them do a lot of the work that they do. But you can find them on the internet and see some things there. Well, let's move quickly just to the school in Paraguay. We just started classes in March, as we said. I only wish the plane would do that fast. That's from Chicago up here to Sao Paulo, Brazil, was 10 hours. And that's a long time to sit anywhere. But that gives you an idea of where Paraguay is. It's on the other end of the world, just about. They have a nice facility, also located in a house, Sacramento Avenue Congregation. And they have done some remodeling so that they could have this big room for an auditorium. I will tell you that at this time in March, in a country of 7 million people, Paraguay is, about the same size as Guatemala and Honduras and some of the others, 2 congregations of the Lord's Church in the entire country. Both congregations were represented here. This is March 10th, Sunday, March 10th, as we were having a dedication ceremony, so to speak, the classes were to start on the 11th, the next day. And we had about 70 people in attendance there. I said that the way I did, that in March there were 2, because just in the last few weeks they have established a 3rd congregation in the outskirts of the capital. This school exists because those brethren, not the missionaries, the Paraguayan brethren said, we need to evangelize our country. How do we do that? And they explored various options of how to do that. You could try to get more missionaries to come. Maybe they would come, maybe they wouldn't. You could try that, and they finally decided on, we need to be training our own people to evangelize our people. And so we were contacted. Bob Turner and I went down in March of last year and visited with them. And we made it very clear, as we try to do with all of our schools, including ITL in Guatemala, this is your school. This is not a Bear Valley school in the sense that we're the boss and we call the shots and we tell you what's going to happen. No, these are services that we provide. We can provide you with a curriculum. We can provide you some assistance in some other ways and advice and that sort of thing, guidance if you're interested, but it's your school. You decide if you want to partner with us. If you do, then we'll be there. We'll help you develop your curriculum and what you're going to do. We will coordinate and bring teachers down for short courses, long courses. You provide those teachers. And they, after a few months of talking it over, decided that's what they wanted to do. And long story short, in March of this year, they started classes at the Asuncion Bible Academy. And this was a great day to be part of that. We had a meal after morning worship and Bible class. And then in the afternoon, Brother Troy Spradlin serves as the director of ABA. And he was one who visited in Guatemala and ITL and saw what they were doing. But he is serving as Master of Ceremonies on that day. And look right up here. Remember that? Enter to serve, or enter to prepare yourself, leave to serve. They've incorporated into that into their logo. And I think they're going to do a great job. Here you have the faculty. All of these guys here are on the faculty. And there's one other that's on the faculty that's not in the picture, Bob Turner here. This is me down on the end. And all of us were part of that. These are the students. 4 of these, the 4 young men, are from the Sacramento Avenue congregation. The young lady, Karen, is from the Central congregation that meets there in town. And when I was there in May, I went back down in May and taught a class for them, and Karen was not able to be in that class. I learned that she had come down with dengue fever. Dengue fever is contracted through mosquitoes. Paraguay is located on the banks of the Paraguay River, which will eventually become the Rio de los Platos, or de la Plata, excuse me, in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Very famous river, but it's low, it's humid. In the summertime it's hot, it's over 100 degrees, it's very common there in the summertime. And so there are lots of mosquitoes. And they were not completely gone by the time I was there in May, but remember, they're on the other side of the equator, so May is in the fall. They're coming into winter. It had cooled off some, and they were not as active when I was there, but Karen and her mother both had come down with dengue fever. There were about 5 in the Sacramento Avenue congregation that had it. Karen's mother actually had to be hospitalized, but they've both recovered and they're fine now. 2 weeks later, after I was there, another one of our teachers was down teaching a course, and Karen was back in class, so we're grateful for that. But it's a good group of students. Bob Turner is giving a challenge to the congregation. Perry Harden is one of the missionaries there, and he's translating for Bob. And then I was up next giving, I think my charge was to the faculty. The next day of classes, chapel begins, and Troy is leading singing. I was the speaker that day. I always try, I haven't been able to do it in Guatemala, but I always try to be present for the first chapel. When I was a student at Bear Valley, first chapel was very important. Dave probably remembers Roy Baker always giving that first address, and so I like to try to do that. And part of my address is telling them about Brother Roy. Bob Turner is teaching a 2-hour class that Monday afternoon with Troy translating. I taught a 2-hour class the next day, next morning before we headed to the airport. This is some of their information that you can access on the internet. I went back down in May, as I said. I went a different way. As you can see, I went through Panama. It takes about the same time either way. It's almost exactly a 24-hour trip once you count in layovers. At some place on this map, in this trip, going and coming, you're going to stop for at least 7 hours for layover. There's no way I found around doing that. This time I went through Las Vegas and Panama down there, and they're taking a quiz, the 4 guys that were there in class. Future plans. I'm actually leaving this afternoon to go to Guatemala. I'll be in Guatemala this evening about 9:30. And so please keep me in your prayers. I'm teaching how to study the Bible, or a class in exegesis this week. The guy that was down, Denton Landon, was down there last week teaching a class. He hurried up and finished his class, taught Friday. This past Friday, he taught the first day of my class. And then I'm going to teach Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then a couple hours on a Thursday morning, give a final exam. I get back on a plane about noon Thursday, and I'll be back here Thursday night and go by the house and drop off one bag of dirty clothes, pick up the other bag that I've already got packed, and head to our retreat center for next weekend's faculty retreat. And we are planning a campaign to Guatemala from Denver with the 4 students that we have here in October on these dates. Please keep that in your prayers. I believe, it's not firm yet, but I believe that I will be able to see the Ramos family on this campaign and spend a few days with them. Well, I know that our time is up, and that was this is the end. This basically says, I know Scripture says you're not supposed to speak in tongues without a translator. So I'm going to translate. Thank you for all of your support. On behalf of the Ramos family, I thank you for the support that you give to the work that they're doing. And may God bless you. Thank you.